financial incentive to do just what they've done with this poor food stock in India, to warehouse the food and bet on its price going up in the future. Very dangerous policies that we're seeing in this day and age, all of it putting major pressure on the global food supply, really probably so they could just call for greater population controls, but it's going to hit the poorest first. And these policies, Lord Monckton has come on and analyzed the data and shared it with us, are affecting over 1 billion people. There's 1 billion people on the edge of starvation just through policies like ethanol for food, just through policies like ethanol for fuel rather than for food. Now, on the GMO food front, we have the headline in Natural News: doctors and farmers find that eliminating GMOs prevents disease. Sounds like a no-brainer, but a lot of people don't know this. We need to make sure we're educating people, particularly those in lower income brackets who have a financial incentive not to pay for the costlier foods, to seek out whatever's cheaply available, where those processed foods that are ready to go at the biggest supermarkets contain some of the most dangerous foods. Now, in the most recent years, more and more doctors have started warning their patients to avoid genetically modified foods, and the results are paying off. It cites Jeffrey Smith, probably the leading expert in GMOs, by the way, who's telling us that thousands of doctors have reported the elimination of disease when patients simply cut their intake of genetically modified foods from their diets. It's an elimination of things like immune disorders, arthritis, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, allergies, skin problems, general pain, migraines, restless leg syndrome, and on and on and on. And you can get these results pretty quickly if you just cut the genetically modified foods from your diet. There's something going on there. They don't work well with the body. The body isn't used to recognizing these things, even if in theory they provide some benefit. In reality, they're hurting people. And again, we see the same evidence, not from doctors who deal with humans, but from farmers raising their livestock. As you know, in many places around the world, livestock, whether it be pigs, cows, horses, sheep, have been dying en masse, having spontaneous abortions, having other health issues because they're eating the genetically modified food commodities. Now, the elimination of disease by dropping genetically modified foods has been found in farmers, as I mentioned. Jeffrey Smith points out a Danish farmer who switched to non-GMO soy for his 450 pigs and their offspring. Within 2 days, only 2 days of cutting this diet, the animals' diarrhea problems virtually disappeared, and furthermore, during the following year, after taking them simply off of the GMO foods, the deaths that he had seen in his population of pigs from ulcers and bloating and other complications had vanished. He had up to 36 pigs from his larger 450 or so pigs dying from these kind of complications, but a simple change in the diet changed all that. Now, that should be suggestible to those of you who haven't began avoiding GMOs. I've tried to cut it out completely from my diet, and I'm going to continue to do so, but we need to, once again, warn others. Now, we turn back to the Tampa Convention and the TSA, who've embedded themselves there, of course, in the name of security. But as we mentioned previously, we have to keep our security safe as well. So that's what the Federal Protective Service goons from Homeland Security for, apparently. Now, the Houston Freethinkers are a local citizen journalist group based here in Texas. They traveled to Tampa to cover the issues, and they saw TSA doing bag checks of journalists, people coming to attend the convention, etc., and began filming it. That's when they were confronted on the street by these black-shirted Federal Protective Service goons, who, of course, operate under the guise of Homeland Security. You've seen these people pop up in places like Occupy protests. I think the city was in Portland, Oregon, but they've been seen all across the country doing police work from a federal jurisdiction in a local area. What's that all about? Well, I'm sure this has been declared a national security special event for the Tampa RNC convention, so naturally the TSA must descend. And it's just crazy. They threatened them with arrest, told them they'd hold them for 72 hours without them being accused of any crime, simply for not providing identification when requested. And with more on that story, we turn now to Derek Bros and other members of the Houston Freethinkers. They are there on scene in Tampa, Florida, at all the ongoings outside of the RNC. Thanks for joining us, Derek.
Hey, thanks for having us on, Aaron.
And I see also Micah there, another member of the Houston Freethinkers. And I don't know this guy, but there's a lot of people doing good work in the Houston Freethinkers group. But tell us what happened on the scene, how you guys were filming, and the incident that occurred with the Homeland Security police, law enforcement officials, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, it was this Monday, which was officially the first day of the RNC, but there was no, action going around there. We went there. We've been here to document all the marches from the Resist RNC group, which includes a lot of Occupy groups from around the country. We've been here to document that action and to cover the police state and any action we can get from within the RNC. Monday, there was a pretty quiet day after some marches, so we decided to go just do our own searching. And the entire city, even away from the Tampa Bay Times Forum where the RNC is being held, has giant metal perimeter fencing, throughout around the county courthouse and different, I guess, points of interest that they're trying to protect. There's high security everywhere. There's National Guard, there's sheriffs. We've seen Secret Service. And so we were out just doing some filming. We happened to be walking past a Greyhound station, and we saw a sign on the front door that said TSA screening notice. And we started videotaping from there, live streaming, open the doors and see 3 or 4 TSA agents working with the local cops, and it looked like one even federal officer, and that's all on the video. And as we were doing that, Micah noticed a DHS car parked just down the block on the corner, and the guy inside had rolled his window down, and apparently Micah witnessed him.
Yeah, he basically just, pulled out his phone and videoed us, and I just said, hey, he's videoing us, and didn't think it was any big deal. And we just continued to document, I guess you could call it the police state, and getting the information out, and that's when everything kind of...
Yeah, so we decided to go get closer and take a look. As you guys can see in the video, we go there, and all we did was cross from one side of the street to the other. The side that we crossed on where the car was, the sidewalk was blocked by their giant fence, so we just walked along the side of the fence. We passed by the car, and as you can see in the video, we took pictures of the license plate, and that's when the other 2 cars pulled up and kept us there and started demanding papers from us.
And so you've got, quote, federal protective officers under the larger Homeland Security umbrella parading as federal police. What kind of jurisdictional issue is that, first of all?
Well, we were unsure what to do with this whole incident. Back in Houston, we're pretty adamant, as you guys have seen on our videos before, about not identifying ourselves. These officers are not showing identification, but telling them who we are. And we tried to do our usual procedure with that, and again, in the video, the guy says, I don't want to hear anything from you. I just want you to show me something. And I didn't even have ID on me. I just happened to have my birth certificate with me. And I guess if I hadn't even had that, then we would be going to lockup for 72 hours, because they said there's a law that requires you to identify yourself to the federal government. And we haven't been able to confirm whether that's true or not. But, we are essentially just pressured and forced into that.
Generally speaking, though, that's a color of law issue. Go ahead, Micah.
Yeah, we're just saying we were coerced into giving our identification. We said we didn't want to, that we wouldn't fail to identify ourselves, but that wasn't satisfied.
It's amazing, though. You've got the TSA invading not only Tampa, Florida during the RNC, but bus and train stations all across the country. They've begun working their way into sports events. They've told us they're coming to shopping malls, but you're not supposed to question that. You're not supposed to film it as that, but the perception is that filming it is the crime now, or that protesting the RNC is somehow the illegitimate action, not these manufactured parties that have hijacked our countries, not these G20 globalist events trying to impose outside jurisdiction over our constitutional republic. None of that is supposed to be seen as illegitimate. It's supposed to be the fact you're there to protest, the fact you're there to film.
Yeah, and the TSA is an issue that we keep particularly close to heart, because we were on INFOWARS before talking about getting rid of the TSA on Houston buses, and that was something that we see as a good victory to show to other cities. And so when we saw them on the Greyhounds here, we're like, we got to get video of this. We got to let Occupy Tampa, or We Are Change Tampa, or whoever's out here trying to do some activist work, let them know that cities such as Houston can and will put an end to the TSA. So that was the reason we started doing that as well. And I agree with you that a lot of the protesters here seem to see the problem with the Republican Party, but some of them aren't so ready to call the Democrats as part of the problem. But there are a lot of people as well, though. When me and Mike are out there chanting, say no to Obama, say no to the two-party system, a lot of people recognize that. So we're out here mainly trying to cover the news and trying to put a message out there to remind people that both parties are responsible for what's happening.
And it's a long-term process to have people wake up, but regardless of your views, even if you have an ignorant view about the way the system works, you obviously still have a right to join and protest. But back on the TSA issue, I just want to point out what your group as citizen journalists did because it was effective. First, you filmed the fact that TSA had begun doing bus inspections in Houston. You had video of the press conferences with the Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, and so there was no denial issue because it was on tape and you'd proven it. Then you took your group and other people of similar mind to the council meetings, to the Metro hearings, and put pressure on them, and they were forced to back off.
Yeah, definitely. We want to use that as a model for other cities. Anybody else who's watching and seeing this, we're trying to set up a different plan of actions, dealing with the TSA, dealing with sustainability, taking on fluoride, taking on, any of these issues, and try to set up a plan. And we encourage others in other cities who find ways that work. Let the rest of us know. As we're seeing with the RNC, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, they're going to change the rules anytime they want, anytime we get close to, almost beating them at their system. So it's time for us to really start focusing on what we can change locally and sharing that with each other.
Right. Can you guys describe more broadly what kind of scene have you seen in the different protesting groups? We've been told that the police outnumber the protesters something like 4 to 1. Have you seen people being allowed to protest, or are they cracking down in many respects?
I've heard numbers from 4 to 1 to 6 to 1. And we've seen everything from Secret Service, Department of Justice, National Guard, sheriffs, police. I think for the most part, the local sheriffs and police have been generally friendly. They have come in the Turtles to come between, I guess, one protest we saw, or counter protest to Westboro. They came in between the people that were counter-protesting Westboro Baptist Church and basically sandwiched themselves between the two. But we haven't really seen much trouble with the local police, just a very large presence, bikes, motorcycles, horses, little golf cart things, Helicopters everywhere, 3 or 4 helicopters. You get pretty used to the sound of them.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing the police state pretty visible, but as Micah said, for the most part, with our efforts, we try not to generalize any group at all, including the police. We recognize which cops do work against us and work against the Constitution and work against freedom. So we're going up to the cops and saying, thank you guys. We know you would never turn on the American people. We know you guys would never hurt your own people and never defy the Constitution. And at the very least, trying to get them to think about maybe possible orders that they have received. And we've got some pretty positive response so far. Other than being hassled by the federal government and the DHS, I think that the cops here are just generally trying to keep things calm. And to be honest, the presence is much, much smaller than it was in 2008, and I think a lot smaller than the organizers planned, because we interviewed some of the organizers earlier, and they were, I'd say that they're happy with the feel of the thing, but as far as numbers, it's kind of disappointing.
Right. And that message about police is important to get out. We do know a lot of police either are constitutional or want to be if they're allowed to follow the orders they're supposed to follow. The problem is a whole nother cadre of police are being indoctrinated on these color of law ways, on top of the problem with TSA and other new entities that really there's not even established practices going on.
Yeah, exactly. They're running wild, and that's why it's important for us to reach out to the officers, because we still do have a chance. Some of these people that take up positions of law may already be indoctrinated, and some of them even get into those positions so they can exercise that power. But there are others who generally get into the military or police because they want to help, and we need to reach out to those people, because if everybody who's paying attention to what's going on, not only here at the RNC, but the police state being built up and the talk of false flags and the elections coming up, we really need to speak up to more unity rather than division.
Well, just add any other details you've seen on the ground there in Tampa, or what you think about where the electoral process is going in terms of the larger awakening. Are people in general across the country waking up? And then let us know where we can find your work, too.
Well, I'll say a little piece and let Micah say his mind. I really think, as far as I'm concerned, this is all necessary. A lot of people who support Ron Paul support freedom, and even those who